For anybody watching, I'm begging that you please watch this video. It's going to show you how to make a watch waterproof. It's going to really explain to what goes into doing so. I don't think anybody understands. We try to explain to people every single day, but now you're going to see it firsthand. So come along into the shop. Let's go on this journey. And anytime someone asks me the question of how to waterproof their watch, I'm going to say, watch this video. So today I wore one of my not so good watches, but a perfect example, because these are the watches we see every day in the store where somebody will come. This happens to be a plastic watch, okay, but it's rated to be 200 meters water resistant, according to what the manufacturer says.
Yes.
Which is very possible. I'm sure that
when the watch is new,
the watch it brand new
okay,
will pass a test that it's 200 meters. A lot of bad things can happen to a watch like this. Number one, it's a plastic case, all right? Plastic could distort, could bend, could crack, right? It could expand and contract, definitely with different temperatures, probably.
it doesn't have a screw-down crown, right? It's
No.
just a regular crown.
Doesn't.
Yes, yeah, a little thin gasket.
And you can see it's even a little bent already.
Yes.
So for sure, the tubing in here is bent. This watch isn't waterproof. It's never going to be again. Now, if we had to make this watch waterproof, we could. To do that would run probably half the cost of buying a new watch. So most of the time we tell our customers, buy a new watch. If it's under $500, you really want to go in the water with it, you need to have it sealed, just buy a new watch. Don't spend the money on trying to make an old watch sealed. But the watch we picked for today is a very good watch.
That's an expensive watch.
Yeah, it's an Omega. Very, very popular. The model is called the James Bond. It's probably one of the more popular watches sold today from that company.
It's a diver's watch, rated.
It's divers. Yeah. It's new to buy the watch. It's in the thousands. It's not in the hundreds. So it's a watch that you want to have this process done.
I know everybody needs to make a living, but if you have an expensive watch and you want your watch to be treated responsibly, you to bring it to your shop where you know what
exactly. I mean, not everybody could bring a watch to us. I mean, it's nice if everybody watching here was a customer and sent us all their watches. But some people live, very far away.
Yeah. And
you have a local place that's changing your battery for you, and you ask them to seal the watch. A lot of times they don't have the right equipment. I'd say 95% of the time they don't have the right equipment, unless you're going to an Omega authorized service center.
Yes.
Which takes a lot. I mean, we were talking about that before. When you work with a company like that, you have to go to the company and they train you how to use all of their stuff. You were there not even a year ago.
And just to develop that culture, that habit of really understanding that all parts need to be replaced. Right? You don't want all parts to be used in your watch the same way that you don't want all parts to be used in your car when you take it for service.
Sure.
Right? I have this extra gasket here, but the watch is still good. Why should I replace it? No. Replace it, and you have to make sure that the person who's going to work in your watch has that discipline to change all those parts every time the watch needs to be serviced.
Yeah, it's like a lot of times I'll buy a watch from a dealer and they'll tell me, no, they serviced it and they changed all the gaskets and all the seals. But to be fair to our customers, we never take the word of anybody else.
No.
Every single time we take the watch apart ourselves and we replace all the gaskets and we do everything ourselves. So it's fair to the next person that buys that watch that because you want to have a timeline. You want to know no more than 5 years could you go with any watch that's made and expect it to be water resistant.
Well, if it's a diver's watch, they recommend every 2 years.
Right.
Even if your watch is working perfectly, if you want to use the watch for diving purposes, you should take the watch to be checked every 2 years. And every 2 years, all those seals or those gaskets are going to be replaced because you don't want to take a chance when you get in the water with a watch.
That's right. But I'd say most people that are watching are not diving with their watches.
Yes, if you just use the watch water resistance to wash your hands or when you get caught in the rain, then I would say 5 years is okay.
5 years. Now, once again, if you have an inexpensive watch, I wouldn't worry about it. When it leaks, and it's time to throw it away.
But if it's a quartz watch and your battery dies every year,
and
every year that case has to be opened and closed again, then you can wait 5 years, not even 2. You got to change that gasket every time you open it.
That's right.
Maybe you can get away by opening it and change the battery once, But when you tie that case back very tight, and you stretch that gasket, you compress that gasket, and then when you open that watch again, you stretch that gasket.
Sure.
And then when you try to put it back, it's oversized. It's too big.
Absolutely.
And watchmakers are going to try to squeeze it in and close the watch again, but the watch is not water resistant and it's not good.
No.
So that gasket, once gets stretched, has to be replaced. And those sleeves that go on the crystal that are made like a special nylon, they crystallize.
Right.
And then they get very brittle and they break with nothing.
Absolutely.
So whenever you see those little cracks, the watch is no longer water resistant.
And what Will and I are going to do now is we're going to go in the shop and we're going to actually walk you through step by step what it looks like to take a watch apart, all the different openings and all the different parts that are going to go in to make it waterproof. All right, let's take them in.
Let's do that.
So now, as we can see, we have the watch on your bench. I see you've totally taken the watch apart. You've done everything. You've even removed the helium valve, right?
Yes. And then we gotta reassemble the whole watch. Change the crystal with the crystal sleeve. I change the case back gasket. And I close the watch properly to do all the testing that is required for this watch.
Right. So now I see that you're working on the watch, and now that you've put the tube in, now the next step is you're going to be working with the crown. You're fitting the new crown on the stem. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, we got to put a new crown. We're going to test this watch without the movement because this is just for educational purposes. Normally we test the watch already assembled completely.
Gotcha.
Right? Because we don't want that once we determine that the watch is water resistant, we don't want to open the watch again.
Yes.
And then we would have to put another gasket. Every time the watch gets open, you have to replace that case back gasket.
So I see now, I mean, you're over by the crystal press machine.
You can use any pressing tool for this purpose.
Okay.
This one works perfectly for what we're going to do today. Then we got to inspect that the sleeve that we put in there doesn't get pinched when we press the crystal and damaged.
Sure.
In that case, we would have to remove the crystal again and put a new gasket in there.
And that happens. In fact, I know a lot of times when we order parts from many companies and you order a gasket, they give you 2 crystal gaskets with it because they expect that it happens all the time.
It could happen.
Pinch a gasket.
Yes.
You know?
And also we get watches here that have been serviced somewhere else and the gasket is pinched.
Right.
And the watch passed water resistant, but it's not going to last for long.
Interesting.
The watch at some point is going to fail. As soon as you put a little bit of extra pressure in that case, it's going to fail.
The final step is now we're putting the back gasket.
Then we're going to close the watch. So we're going to put the case back gasket. We're going to apply a little bit of fumbling on this gasket. So the gasket is going to keep that moisture that it should have. You know, it's a piece of rubber. And then we're going to put some special grease on the threads of the case back, which is called fumbling, to make the closing of the watch smooth and to prevent the case back from locking or getting cross-threaded. So it's going to be very easy to close it and very easy to open it when you need to open the watch.
All right.
Now we're pressing we're going to close this watch tightly, and we're going to start all the tests.
So now that we have everything, you know, by the machines here, we're about to take this watch and we're going to put it in a tank with water. We can't use the dry tester.
Well, we're going to simulate what it would happen to the watch if you were going for a dive, right? So we're going to apply pressure little by little. We're going to first just close the lid for 3 minutes and let it rest there. Then we're going to crank that pressure up to 40 bar and we're going to leave the watch there for another 30 minutes. Then we're going to release that pressure and we're going to let the watch rest for another 3 minutes, just like if you were diving and you were coming out to the surface little by little, right? You don't come all of a sudden.
Right.
So all that we're going to simulate that. That's what the machine is going to do. And then we're going to know if the watch would to be able to endure a real test once you put it in your wrist and get into the water.
Now, after we take it out of the water here and we put it on this machine next to it, explain what this machine is doing. Explain to everybody.
Well, we put the watch in the tank and we didn't see any water. We visually inspected the case and we don't see any water. But there's a chance that there's a little particle there of water so small that we cannot see with our naked eye. So the only way is to do a condensation test. We're going to put this watch in a heated element, a hot plate, and then we're going to shock the watch. We're going to put it in a cold element. We're going to go from 50 degrees Celsius down to 5 degrees Celsius. And if there's any condensation, then that means the watch failed the
Right.
test.
We'll be able to see that from.
We're going to
the
be
inside.
able to see the crystal, getting a little fog in there.
Yeah.
And that means the watch failed. And in that case, we need to redo the whole process again.
So just to talk it over, this whole process, just of the testing, after the work is done, you told me it was a half hour
Well,
to
the
settle.
test took
a
us an
half-
hour.
Yeah, so the test
Right.
was an hour.
An hour, a little bit over an hour. The work that it took us to put the watch together.
Uh-huh.
And don't forget that before we changed all this gasket, we had to prepare this case.
Right.
I had to disassemble it. I had to clean it. We refinished the case, but that is not part of this, but it's also a lot of work,
Uh-huh.
right? And then we assembled this case. Took us an hour just to test it.
Right.
And now we still had to continue working on the watch.
Okay.
So it's a lot of time. It's very expensive,
Yes.
I would say.
So let's just say somebody came and they dropped this watch off, and we're going to charge them, $300 or somewhere between $300 and $400, depending on which, model Omega that it is, just to seal a watch. Now they can understand why. Okay? I'm going to try to sum it up. I'm going to try to do it in one breath. I don't think it's possible. So we took the watch in. We removed the movement. We took off the bezel. We took off the tube from the case. We removed the helium valve. We took the stem out and the crown. We removed the stem out of that old crown. We opened all the new parts. We put the new helium tube in. We put the new case tube in. We put the new stem on the new crown. Right so far? We put all that in the watch. We put the crystal gasket. We closed the crystal. We put the back gasket. We put the fumbling. We tightened the case back. We brought it over to the waterproof machine. We spent an hour over there out of testing the watch. And now we're putting the whole watch back together, putting the movement in, putting the crown in, putting the stem in, closing the case back. And that's the process. So now somebody could understand, when we give them a price of what it costs to do something like that there's no magic. It's not a button that we push to make fairy dust and say this watch is waterproof again for the next 5 years. This is the process.
And there are so many different kind of watches. We have more complicated watches. Watches that are not divers watches, but are water resistant watches with more holes in that case to seal. And after we assemble the whole watch, the watch fails. We had to do it all over again. Yes.
Right.
And nobody, I don't know, I wouldn't say nobody, but at least the guy who changed the battery in a corner of a mall is not going to do all this.
No, everything has to add up. This channel is going to show you every project that we've done over the years that I think is something that would equal the value of why something's being done. I mean, I know one video I want to do with you I was talking about is doing like old character watches from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. They were $1 when they were new, but we charge hundreds of dollars to fix them, and we'll explain why. But anyway, please subscribe. I really hope you enjoyed this. This was a load off of my shoulders, being able to really do this. So sometimes if there's a customer that we're giving an estimate to, we can ask them to watch this video. And don't forget to subscribe, the button somewhere on the screen here. And we've done it
Thank you
again.
very much for watching. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.